Hello everybody, welcome back to Rationally Speaking. I'm Martin Turner. This is my colleague and co-host, Stuart Carrington. So obviously one of the key features of REBT, it's probably the most famous feature of it possibly, is the ABC. Mm-hmm. And we have obviously touched on this many, many times, even in this conversation. And you can't get away from it really, because it orients you across the REBT framework, doesn't it? Okay, am I in the A? Am I in the B? Am I in the C? What are we doing here? What are we talking about?
Yeah, it's really useful for the practitioner. I've heard it termed like a metaphorical handrail. I really like that, because sometimes when you're working with somebody, it certainly helps me to say, oh, so that's the C, that's the B, and to kind of associate what they're saying with that framework. And then it's really beneficial for the client as well, because once they understand the framework, they start to do it themselves. So it promotes that long-term benefit. Yes.
And in line with that, I use it in two ways. The first way is how you described. It's a shared framework where it helps you and the client to figure out where you are in the conversation and where you're going. They can start to use that language as well. Okay, well, I was in A at this point, and so this is my A, and then I was thinking this, and that's B. So I think it's helpful to have a shared framework. But then also it's constantly in the back of my mind when I'm having a conversation, even in session one. So tell me about why you've come to see me today. The answers to that question, I'm slotting in to ABC, actually GABC, which we can talk about. I'm already doing that work in the back of my mind. Now, this isn't a shared framework at this point. At some point, it will become shared when I feel like I've got enough information to kind of state some hypotheses. Here's how I see it, to let me know if I'm right or wrong. From what you describe, this, I see those things as belonging to this category. Then you can start to lay out the framework, and it's the kind of psychoeducational part of RBT sometimes is, here's the framework. What do you think about it? How does what you described fit into this? Where do we go from here? Type thing. So initially for me, it's like a framework in the back of my head that I'm using as a rubric continuously. And then it leaps into the room, and it's a shared framework. And then the conversations that you're having can be specifically around that. And you're both oriented in the proper direction. Yeah.
So should we break this framework down?
100%.
So we have A for adversity, B for beliefs, C for consequences.
And then the secret.
Do you want to do disputation or the goal?
I think we do goal.
Goal, okay.
We can do disputation.
Okay. I guess the reason I said, which way do you want to go here? Because we can look at the importance of the goal. Yeah. So I can highlight this with an example, actually. I remember being in college, and a long time ago. And
70s.
Yeah. And I remember our teacher told us she gave us netballs and said, you can get 10 shots, but you can shoot from anywhere you want. And I want to see so go ahead and do that. I want to see how many you get. And then what we didn't know as participants is she discussed with other people in the group, like, oh, where do you think Stu will shoot from? Where do you think John will shoot from? And so on and so forth. And I took my shots from like a variety of different places, like some really close, some a little bit further away, and so on and so forth. And it ended up in me getting like 4 out of 10 because I wasn't getting the longer ones, the more difficult ones. Whereas some people kind of stood directly underneath and got 9 or 10 out of 10, right? And afterwards, so she'd say, well, why didn't you just kind of go for the easier ones? Because you would have scored more. And it's because I didn't care. Like, it didn't bother me like how many I got or how many I didn't, because my goal isn't to be a really good netball shooter.
Yeah.
So I felt no adversity or no kind of negative emotion at all when I missed, because I just didn't care.
Yeah.
So when we have adversity, that's only because of a goal. Did it impede our goal? We can relate that to other work around kind of stressors, yes. For instance, and ambiguity. So there's kind of precedent for this before, but I think REBT is really explicit about this.
Yeah. Yes. But it's not necessarily the case that that goal is always or has to be articulated.
Okay.
So you're able to articulate your goal there. Well, I didn't care about being a netball, so it wasn't adverse to me. Well, having a goal doesn't mean you're able to articulate it or express it or even hold it consciously.
Okay.
Some goals are just there. Your goal to survive is fortunately in the civilized world, we don't go day to day thinking about surviving. Generally, obviously that's not unilaterally the case, but it's still a goal, and it's a deeply biological goal. And if something thwarts that goal, then it's adverse, and you feel it. You know what I mean? So it's important when we think about goals or talk about goals that we're not just talking about things that you can express and articulate. Here is my goal, fine, but there's lots of goals that you can't say, you can't even, cognitize them. So it to me, sometimes the G is kind of silent in this framework, because of that. It doesn't have to be articulated. What we're trying to do in the work we're doing with clients is to help them to articulate it so we can work with it and figure out, are you oriented in the right direction for you? It's going to lead you to a fulfilled existence. Then you can start to figure out what the adversities are in relation to that goal. So if you face adversity, it's because you have a goal. It's like you said, these two things are linked. Inexorably, they're linked. So adversity is sometimes called activating events, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes called event, situation, activating event, adversity. I call it adversity personally, and I think that's because it's adverse to the goal, and I like to always bear that in mind. Activating event to me is a bit too immediate. Like you know what I mean? It activates something. What does it activate?
General, isn't everything an activating event?
Yeah. The idea is that it specifically activates the B. That's why it's called activating event. It doesn't activate you or your emotion or anything else. It activates the B. That's really important language, because the idea of B isn't that it's caused by A. The idea of the B, it's already there. It's already formed. It might have been formed a long, long time ago and refined and, boiled down to its most potent form. So when it's activated, it really hits you. You've learned that belief. You've rehearsed it over a long period of time. You've figured out this is the most intense version. And then when it's activated, when you face A, then it's starting to shape emotion. We can be conscious of it, but it can sit there unconsciously, shaping emotion and behaviours. So again, our work is to bring it to the consciousness and to make it, cognitive to an extent, so we can work with it.
Sure.
So that's really important, because the idea that the belief is already there, waiting, if you like, to be activated, means that it's something that's quite deep and has a temporal aspect to it. Something that somebody might have held for decades. So the idea that you would just shift them from that belief and just say, oh, just think something differently, well, you can get rid of that idea straight away. Because they might have been holding on to this for a long time. They figured out how to refine it down to such a nice rule-based belief that they can do it without thinking about it. So that GAB bit, conscious, unconscious, can be articulated, doesn't have to be, but for the work we're doing, we really need to help them to articulate so we can work with them.
Just before we progress with the rest of the framework, I kind of want to emphasise to the listeners here, this is not very representative of the conversations we have, and also what Ellis would encourage, which is this kind of falsification, this kind of questioning a little bit.
Yeah.
And I know what the answer is, or I believe I know what the answer is, but for the benefit of our listeners, if you mentioned there, an individual might have kind of refined this belief to such an extent, and so on and so forth, and that's in relation to their goal. So if some goals aren't helpful and are detrimental to our emotional well-being and behavioural outcomes as well, why do we have them? Where do those goals come from? Why aren't we good at setting ourselves goals that help us?
Well, it's not like we know what we're doing. We're trying to figure out a direction. We're goal directed, but the goal is never given to us. It tries to give it to us through society, and when it does that, it means in some ways you're open to manipulation sometimes. For example, this kind of superficial existence that many of us are experiencing of aiming towards wealth, aiming towards owning nice things and shiny things. That's an industry telling us that should be your goal.
Right.
Your goal should be the new version of the car.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so you orient yourself towards that goal because you're trying to hook onto something to direct your life. Human beings, that's what we're looking for, to say, okay, it's that thing, I'll aim towards there.
Yeah.
Which is why certain philosophies, when they're diminished, leaves a bit of a hole. I use the example of religion, which in our society is diminished. I'm not a religious person generally, or at all really, but I see the value of religion in a sense that it has a shape and a structure that could direct people and orient people towards things that might be quite good. It gives them a value system. When you take away that value system and there's nothing there, then it leaves people open to something filling that hole. And if it's essentially commercialism or something superficial, then they'll direct themselves towards it. Sure. I think why do we have it is basically because we're human beings. It's not just us that has goals. It's just that we can articulate them. Yeah. Lots of species are directed towards things, but it's more biological for them than it is for us.
I just wanted
arguably.
I really wanted to kind of get that point across about, you mentioned this industry aspect, like we've heard or seen it termed socialization before.
Yes.
So we're kind of more socialized into, this is what your goal should be. There's the must in there. And actually it's not particularly helpful or beneficial.
Well, your goal should be to buy that new car. Okay. The adversity to that is I'm not earning enough money to buy the car. My belief around that is I must have that car. And the fact that I'm not earning enough money shows that I'm a failure and I'm worthless. Yeah. Because society is telling me that's what I should be aiming for, and I can't get there.
Or I can't stand not having the car.
I can't stand not having it.
Now I'm angry.
That's right. Isn't it terrible that I can't get it? And then I'm angry, I'm kicking things, I'm abusing people around me, or I'm depressed and I'm withdrawn and I can't face the world because I'm a worthless person who can't afford this thing that society tells me I should get. Yeah. So when we adopt those goals and those goals are given to us and they're not virtuous, then some problems can form. Because that shapes our perception of adversity, and then that shapes the activation of our beliefs. If our beliefs have been formed because they're tied to the goal, my goal is to get that thing, so I must, then that's when you end up with some tricky kind of emotional and behavioural situations. One of the ways that we see this framework is we see it as something that it isn't all in service of B. So when we think about the GABC, goals, adversity or activating events, B, beliefs, C, consequences, our only intervention point isn't B. To put that, to stop that from being weirdly phrased. We're not hell-bent on going for B the whole time. We can intervene with G, A and C. We can help people to shape their goals away from things that aren't helping them. We can help people to construe adversity in a way that's more helpful for them. So I got a bad grade on an exam. What a great learning opportunity. That's an example of changing the A. You know what I mean? Or helping people to stop taking themselves into adverse situations. That's still open to us. It's just that it's secondary to B. You go for the B first. You check out if there is an irrational belief first, and then you address it. And then you can come back to the other stuff, and the other stuff might change anyway, because if I'm not demanding it, then I don't perceive it as often, or sometimes at all. And my goals can change because now I'm actually probably capable of more. The scales have been lifted from my eyes now. Because this belief has been blinding me that I have to. Now I don't have to. Oh, I've got more time for family now. My goals have changed. My orientation has shifted. So these things are A, all interconnected, and B, available and open for change and challenge.
Mm.
It's not that we just challenge B. It's just we'll go there first if it materializes.
Sure.
You know.
Okay. Perfect. So we've got the G. That's might be where G's have originated from, and we've already spoke about. You said this word interdependent. So that kind of interacts with the A, and the A also interacts with the G.
Yes.
So then we can go on to the B. So the B is really important. This is what Ellis would call like elegant REBT, which is we challenge the B to promote long-term pleasure, hedonism, satisfaction, whatever phrase we might like to use.
Yes.
There. Hedonism probably got some connotations that we wouldn't associate with REBT.
Well, Ellis was also well read on Epicureanism,
Okay.
for whom hedonism wasn't a controversial subject.
Yeah.
It didn't mean instant gratification.
Sure.
Hedonism was a long-term idea.
Yeah.
So when Ellis uses the word hedonism, I like to think that he's using it in an Epicurean way, which he probably was.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of writings that I've specifically read. Yeah, so I think hedonism in modern society is probably a more controversial term than what it should be. I think when we use it here, we're talking about long-term fulfillment and contentment.
Fulfillment's a better word, I think, And it's by challenging the B that we do that, because the B mediates the impact of those adversities, which we know from our previous conversation, like it's going to happen, like we're going to experience these things, it's part of the human condition. So, and this is where we might look at what our beliefs are. This might be a good time to talk about rational and irrational beliefs.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So we're not, as we mentioned previously, we're not in a position, and we don't want to be in a position, and nor should we be in a position where we would say this is what rational is and this is what irrational is, in the sense of you should be thinking like this.
And also, you're irrational, you're right. That isn't something that would be in REBT lexicon. We wouldn't say you're irrational and you're rational.
Because we all experience rationality and irrationality.
So it wouldn't be that simple as to use those terms as labeling terms that are absolute.
Sure.
And I think, as you said there, it's kind of within the person's own perception, irrationality and rationality, and we can talk about what that means. We do have some definitions of generally the patterns that we see, and in REBT, what is considered to be rational and irrational, but it's still for you and the client to decide what's working for them versus what's not working for them, which sometimes challenges how fixed we are to the idea that irrationality and rationality is about the things that you say, the content of what you say, versus the extent to which it's actually helpful and useful to you.
Okay.
So we can maybe get into that a little bit.
Yeah, so there you mentioned like helpful, useful, utility, pragmatism. Let's talk about that.
Okay.
So this is kind of like one of the three prongs that we would use to assess whether a belief is rational or irrational. So in essence, like, is this helping you? Is this helping you achieve your goal? So if it's not, then we can kind of tick that irrational box. If it is, or being perceived as, I guess there might be a discrepancy there on someone might think it's helping them, but it's actually not. Then what do we do?
Well, I think you have to think in a temporal way when you ask, is it helpful? Because is it helpful now might be they might have a different answer to is it perpetually helpful?
Yeah, nice. Yeah.
Is it helpful in the future? Does it help the you of tomorrow? Which we have to encourage clients to conceptualize, because it's not just now. It's the future me. Human beings have this capacity to imagine ourselves, envision ourselves in the future, and you're encouraging somebody to do that when you ask them about the function of the pragmatic, is it helpful side of beliefs. You asked there, is it helpful? Is it helping me to achieve my goal? Again, if you have the goal poorly defined, then again, that conversation is probably not going to go that well. So it comes back to G in a way.
So it's, again, emphasising that interdependent nature of the phrase.
Yes.
When you mentioned about that temporal aspect, I'm just reminded of another conversation we've had on another one of our recordings about the Roger Federer, it's just a point speech. At one point, no pun intended, he says, when you're playing that point, you treat it like it's the most important thing.
Yes.
And it is.
Yes.
So he's kind of emphasised this. And this is maybe a retaliation to that, I don't care. So Federer isn't saying, when he says it's just a point, he's not saying, oh, well, it's just a point, I don't care about it.
Yeah.
He said, in that moment, I'm treating it as if it's important.
Yeah.
But there's that sort of distinction. I'm treating it as if it's important, but he doesn't actually believe it's the most important thing in the world. He's just treating it as it is. And then once it's gone, he's forgotten about it.
It's, to me, appropriate is a good term. Appropriateness, and sometimes that's conflated with, use of coarse language, for example, or appropriate versus inappropriate behaviour in a social setting. Appropriateness to me is does the language you're using fit the context? So is it appropriate for him to treat this point as the most important thing in the world? Within that context, yes.
Yeah.
For him.
Yeah.
For somebody else, it might not be. Might not be appropriate. So is that belief appropriate when he steps off court and he's out of that context? No. To be obsessed with a point is probably not a good way to go about things. I
think this is where we mentioned like the importance of philosophy. So there's a really wonderful sports philosopher, Sander Borge, which I really like. He talks about sport. He talks about football in particular. He says like football's a fiction. Like doesn't mean anything except for the value that we put on it. He said, but here's the sort of the rub, if you like. If we don't put that meaning on it, it becomes meaningless.
Yes. Yeah.
And so we sort of justify to ourselves, it sort of gives us satisfaction via the meaning that we put on it. So we can have this kind of double think there about this appropriateness. So at the moment, actually, there's these wonderful benefits that I get from attaching meaning to this sporting contest, whether I'm as a spectator, a player, a coach, whatever. But afterwards, it might not be appropriate for me to continue that belief.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Okay.
And can you shed that belief quickly and see beliefs as things you can use and then
jettison with abandon? Yeah, I love that.
That's hard to do.
If you difficult.
If you can do it, great. But obviously, one of the reasons that beliefs are so useful in the context of REBT, these kind of rule-based ideas, is because they give us quick rules that tell us how to orient ourselves and what to do in that moment, and in some ways how to feel. So you are trying to abandon something that by design is very sticky and mimetic. It easily translated from person to person. Because it's very it's like headlines in a newspaper. It's over the top, it's sensational. Must win, terrible performance, and devastated, and a complete failure. These are very easy things to say and shape belief around and then pass on to other people. But if you're able to, in the moment, utilize it, then there's nothing stopping you from utilizing it, as long as you can come away and abandon that. And that really comes back to your question around pragmatism. Is it helpful for the goal? Well, it depends on the goal. My goal is to at some point attain some sense of contentment, and having lived a life worth living. Then a goal such as I must succeed in everything that I do and it's terrible when I fail isn't suitable for that purpose. And a goal that is more flexible and is I would like to succeed but I don't have to, and when things don't work out, yes, it's bad but not the end of the world. Fits the world better. And one of the reasons it fits the world better is because it's true. And the reason the irrational side doesn't fit the world is because it's always false and can't be true. And this is another distinction that I really want people to understand. It's not that irrational beliefs are false or untrue. It's that they can't be true and they're always false. It's always false to demand the thing that you want. It's never true that I have to succeed because I want to. It's a non sequitur.
So that's illogical. So now we're on this second aspect.
Part of the reason it's untrue is because of the failure in logic. It's the end of the world. Well, it's not true, And I know and this isn't to be used as like, oh, it's you failed or you faced a setback. It's not the end of the world. Don't worry about it. We're not trying to downplay the significance of what's happened. The people who believe that failure is at the end of the world, they really believe it. Like everything's going to come crumbling down. So if you have that belief, then what we're doing is trying to challenge that in a way that, around the ideas of empiricism and truth. That's one of the ways that we're trying to challenge that with them. So truth is an important part of that. Literal truth, like empirical truth, not necessarily what's true for you. It's what's true for the world that exists in the world. We're applying that logic. But coming back to the pragmatic point, if somebody says, but believing that helps me, it motivates me towards this thing that I'm trying to do, then it's like, well, okay, we can work with that, so long as there's an understanding that it's being used for that purpose, and I can abandon it when I'm outside of that context.
Okay. Yeah. And is that quite tricky to do? Have you found that, some people might say, oh, that's, I can quit smoking anytime. It's a bit like that, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, I can quit thinking like this. But actually, it's kind of got me this far. I find it hard to turn off. Yeah.
I think that there isn't a sense of it's got me this far. But actually, to me, that downplays the significance of everything else they've done. Well, it's got me this far. Well, it's been part of a very complex mixture that's got you this far. But how fragile is this thing that you've achieved? How fragile is this place that you're at? That if we change this one thing, everything's going to come crashing down. Again, you're not trying to harm anything, or you're not trying to reduce their performance competence in any way, but you are trying to think one step ahead of performance. Think, how will it sustain this individual into the long term?
Yeah.
The idea that they're in front of you means there's something going on.
Sure.
They've come to you with something that's eating away at them, or something that they're experiencing dysfunctionally. So some things have got to change. Can't just keep going on the way that we're going. This is a good candidate for change because you have a belief that doesn't align with reality.
So here you've mentioned longevity, a long-term aspect to this. Right, for me, this is really key because sometimes one of the criticisms we may have heard of REBT is, one, we've mentioned this before, advocating not caring, which it's not, but this is something that's level.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing is, it's kind of like the who are you to tell me aspect. Now, we have these kind of boundaries, these conditions that form this definition, but also we see this viewpoint in really successful people. When you were talking there, I was thinking about this wonderful speech by, or testimony, that's the better word, from Kobe Bryant. And he was saying that one thing that he's kind of realised is when he won, it felt nice, that's good. But he'd go to bed, he'd wake up the next day, he'd have breakfast, and he'd have to go training. And when he lost, well, that didn't feel so great. It would have been better not to have lost. But then I went home and went to bed, and I got up and had breakfast and I went to training. He's like, nothing really changed.
Yeah.
Sort of everything just moved on. So there was no point in holding this belief that I have to win or I must not lose. Yeah. It was a case of it's nicer to win, and I'll do what I can to win and play to win when I'm there. Yeah. But life's going to go on anyway, so it's not the end of the world. Yeah. And so we see from these high level athletes that high performers that have tremendous longevity hold that view. And we see this in numerous athletes and numerous testimonies.
Yeah, 100%.
And yet, when we speak to some people who probably aren't as successful as the individuals one of the individuals I just mentioned, and there's lots of others we could. You've given some wonderful examples like Rory McIlroy, we've had Jurgen Klopp, Roger Federer. These are people that are highly successful in their field.
Yes, yeah.
When we're working with some other athletes or coaches, they tend not to want to embrace that as much, even though we provide...
Because I think there's the belief that in order to get to the top, whatever that means, you kind of have to have this rigid, intense, demanding, you know what I mean? You've got to have those extreme dogmatic beliefs to get there. And one of the reasons I think this is because we kind of try to clutch on to control as much as we can. A demand is a really nice way to kind of fake control.
Yeah.
It has to happen this way. It has to happen. There's one direction of travel. This is how it has to be. It must happen. I must succeed. It's so clear. It's so kind of crystallized. It's me desperately trying to control something that I can't control. Yeah. If I can convince people around me that they have to succeed, then it makes it more likely that they will. So to me, it's a tool that's used for control myself and try to control others in an environment that is ultimately uncontrollable. And it's always felt to me like a desperation, a demand. Like it's a desperate, it has to, it must, it should. It's interesting that it is believed to be associated with greater performance or greater striving or motivation, because it's such a desperate word. And a desperate statement that you would think that it's people go, well, no, I'm not desperate. You know, I want it, and I'm going to strive as much as I can.
Yeah.
I don't need this.
Yeah.
In sport, it seems like it's one of those things that's still pretty strong.
Yeah, I think it comes more from coaches. And we spoke about like the socialization of beliefs previously. I think like coaches, they want control. And we've had this discussion before, Martin, where you've said like coaches might see it as harmful if someone says, well, you know, I don't want to win, but I don't have to win.
Yes, yeah.
So they sort of kind of perpetuate that viewpoint.
Maybe it means you're less motivated or you care less.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then that might reflect badly on me. We spoke about philosophy earlier on. This is almost like sociology now. There's a bit of Marxism there. Like I'm going to exploit this person by pushing this belief on them so they serve me better.
Yeah, yeah.
So then I think that all these beliefs kind of perpetuate.
But also in the first person, so I serve myself better, my body serves me better. If I can convince my body, my brain, my mind that I have to succeed, then it'll it'll kind of fashion itself in a way that means it makes it more likely.
Yeah.
And the thing is, if you really believe that and that it's helped you, then you're not going to come away from that belief, and there's potential for that belief to damage you over a long period of time. And that's where it's challenging for us, because it's like, why would we want to encourage somebody to change something that they believe is really helpful for them? But I think the antidote to that is trying to encourage people not to take their beliefs so seriously, and to help them to drive towards a competence level which is resilient to any form of belief. To the point where it doesn't matter what I tell myself pre-performance. Okay. I'm so competent, and I've prepared so well that yes, I've got these things going through my head. Doesn't mean to say that I'm going to perform worse because I'm thinking these things. So I realise we're drifting to act here a little bit, but as we've said, RET is flexible. It doesn't turn its back on ACT principles, and it stated some of the ACT principles before ACT arrived. It's important to say that. RBT was ahead of its time in many ways. So it's like, don't treat those beliefs as so preciously. Try to align what you think and believe with reality, because it just makes sense to do it. Why would you want to do something opposite? Why would you want to believe things that aren't true? Yeah, you know. And I think that's the kind of the tussle, I think. Well, if I can tell myself things that aren't true, but it helps me, then so what? Well, it helps you now. Yeah. Is it going to serve you down the line? Is it a useful strategy for life to believe things that aren't true? I think the evidence says that it isn't, and that's the difficult part.
I'm just sorry to jump in. It's just as you're talking, there's the word that kept popping into my head, which is word that Ellis pushed a lot, which is contemplation. So we're going to have these thoughts and we're going to have these beliefs. And you said sort of maybe don't hold them so preciously. I'd sort of compliment that by saying, we do that by contemplating it. Is what I'm thinking actually true? Yeah. Whereas I find that sometimes we have a belief, and because I'm thinking it, I've created it. Well, I want to conserve that. Yeah. Like, I don't want to challenge it in any way, because then I might be wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe you're just so fused to that belief that it's difficult for you to see it from an objective. What we're doing here is we're applying the scientific method to our internal dialogue.
Yeah, observation,
states,
hypothesis testing.
Yeah, and we try to test it, do the analysis, and say, well, is this really serving me? Is it logical? Yeah. Is it consistent with reality? Is it true? Yeah, this thing, and that's hard because you're fused to that belief, which is why in REBT you would kind of extract the belief and you'd write it down. It's similar to, we got these cue cards, so we would have a conversation, you'd articulate some beliefs, and I would aid you in that articulation. Then we'd write them down, and now it's extracted. We can be objective about this thing here because it's not in your head anymore. You don't have to be fused with it. It's on this piece of paper. Again, this isn't something that you would see in other therapies, but how can we be objective about something that we're fused with, have believed for a long period of time, and is seen as part of us? Or we have to make it not part of us for a little bit in the session, and I think that's certainly an important part of arriving at that challenge, that disputation, the D of REBT is being able to do that.
Yeah.